There's a big difference between buying things to look rich and buying things that will build wealth. The biggest contrast I had in this was with some of the apartment buildings that we've owned. I would go through the units. We had a 48 unit in Texas and a 72 unit in Oklahoma. And I would go through these units usually at least once a year just to check plumbing, for plumbing leaks, for smoke detectors, all of that stuff. And when I would go through them, it was amazing because I would notice that the tenants that were in there would have much, much nicer things than I had. They would have huge TVs in some of these units. They would have cars that were worth 3-4 times what my car was worth. And, it's like the appearance of being rich or wealthy, but all of those things are going down in value. You buy a huge TV and it's worth half of what you bought it for in a matter of a year. You buy a really, really expensive car, and that car goes down in value the minute you drive it off the lot. And so the difference is, are you buying things to build long-term wealth, or are you buying things to look rich? And if you're buying things to look rich, then, those things are going down in value, and they're actually going to make you poor if you're not thinking about buying things to make you wealthy. Now, take for example this Airstream I'm walking past here. Now, Airstreams are the sort of things that actually hold their value. You can actually buy an old Airstream, or you could buy an old car that might hold its value, or you could do some things to it and it would actually increase in value. I'm not against buying expensive, nice things that, go down in value. What I am against is buying those things to try to look rich, and those things being the most expensive thing you own, and none of our funds going into something that's going to build long-term wealth, long-term security, financial security. And that is a big difference between building for wealth and just trying to look rich. This can be hard. It can be challenging, especially when you see other people who are driving much fancier cars, or they have that huge TV, and, it's a bit of a comparison game. But ultimately, you have to realize, you have to put it in perspective, that those things are actually costing the person from, it's an opportunity cost where that money could have been put into something that would go up in value and bring them more financial stability and security in the future. But it's all being dumped into something that's going down in value. So there's a way to be a bit more financial minimalistic. So you can, just be more conservative on your purchases, on your budget, on what you're spending money on, that's going to just be something that does not go up in value. Be conservative on that. Be setting aside money every month. And if you have to, just have it as an automatic transfer into an account that maybe you don't have such easy access to spend. And with that money, do your long-term wealth planning. Be buying things, be buying investments, be moving into real estate at some point, be moving into stock, be moving into investments that will go up in value, rather than spending money on things that are just going to go down in value. One group of people that really are taking advantage of this mindset of building wealth over just, looking fake rich is the FIRE movement. It stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And it's some of the people are rather extreme, but they'll live in their parents' basement and set aside thousands a month in money they would have been spending on rent to be able to get into something that will help them to retire early, looking for ways to have income coming in, buying rental properties, buying assets that go up in value, investing. But again, it's a form of financial minimalism on the spending side and being as strong as possible on the wealth building side. It's a mind shift, and it's kind of like not caring, like just don't care. Like I think of Warren Buffett, who just lives in the same house for whatever, I don't know, 40 years and drives the same car, but is a multi-billionaire and just doesn't care what people think. Now, I'm not saying like don't get nice things or don't have a nice car or whatever. I'm just saying there's a shift in how you think about where you're going to spend your money and how you're going to spend your money, especially looking at the long-term horizon of building wealth and building financial stability. The most powerful things, in my opinion, that you can build wealth with is anything that you can put money into that will generate cash flow or generate income off of it. For example, you take that Airstream back there that I just walked past. You can take an Airstream, which we've done, and put it on a piece of land or put it in your yard and build a deck around it and create it as a rental component. And we actually did that. We took an Airstream and we built a deck around it, and then we mortgaged it. So we actually borrowed even some money. It was basically a zero down deal. We borrowed some money for the down payment and then mortgaged, not mortgaged, they financed it, the rest of it. And it was about a $50-something thousand purchase, really nice, small Airstream. And we Airbnb'd that thing and then paid aggressively on the debt and paid it off. It's now paid off. 5 years later, we own that thing free and clear. It produced income and it's still holding value, probably worth about $50,000. And as an Airstream, it may even go up in value in the future as it gets older and becomes a classic. But those sort of mindsets, that sort of a thought pattern to think, okay, what can I actually invest in that will create long-term wealth and could actually also create income. That's the big difference between I'm going to buy something really, really fancy and really nice that is going to turn heads and people are going to think, ooh, that person's got some money. That's a shift in mindset, but in the long run, it'll pay off big time. Hey, thanks for listening to the channel. If this is valuable to someone, please share it, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.